World gone mad. After our characters have just gotten taken and ambushed by Ziltrumite, they are more split than ever before. 6 years later, our group struggles with who they are within Ziltrumite. Some people go to the next level to stay alive. Kezia deals with trauma from her past. People turn into who they don't want to be. And as people reflect on their past experiences to make them into who they've become now. And after over 10 years in this world gone mad, people are changed in ways that they would have never expected. We see someone writing stuff down on this chart, as we see paragraphs and paragraphs have been written by this person. We see this person is wearing a hazmat suit. As they stop writing, they take a clock, and they set a timer for 3 hours. As we see them go back to writing stuff down. As we see the outside of a lab. As we hear screams coming from down the hall. We open to see a dark room, as we see a clock on the wall, as we then see someone sitting at a table, as we then focus on their bloody hands, as we see they're shaking a bit. We pan up to see Haley with blood on her face, as she says, "Hey, how the hell did I get here?" She looks around this room trying to find an exit. She tries all the windows, but they're all bolted shut. She sits there as we see a big gash in her head, as she then remembers something that happened in the past. As she looks at this gash in her head, as she remembers Billy standing in front of Haley, as she yells for him, as she watches these men drag Billy out of a store, as she then yells for him, as they then knock her out. She then looks panicked as she turns around and sees people looking at her through a bulletproof mirror, as she says, "Hey, who are you? What is this place?" One of them says, "You are being kept here until the leader is ready to proceed." Haley says, "Proceed? You took my son. You bring him to me right now." The person says, "We'll answer our questions and you'll be sure to see him again." Haley looks scared and says, "You have my people. I saw them." "What are you people?" The person looks back and says something to someone on a radio, and Haley then stands there, wondering what they said to each other. As the person says, "The leader will speak with you first. If you win him over, you'll get to see your son again." Haley looks desperate and says, "Okay, so who leads you people?" We see Haley walking out of the room with 2 guards, as we see her walking past a few guards in the hall. as she is taken outside to a highly functioning town. As we see the guard pushing her forward and says, "Walk." As they walk across, as they are right by the water, as they then walk up to an old diner. As we see, they bring Haley in, and the guard says, "Last booth, our boss is waiting for you." Haley walks through, as she then hears a voice saying, "Don't be rude. Turn around, shake my hand, and tell me it's a pleasure." Haley then turns around, as she looks shocked and says, "Oh my God, you're Rob Johnson, one of America's best rock stars." Rob says, "Well, how kind of you. What's your name again?" Haley says, "I'm Haley." Rob says, "Take a seat, Haley." She sits down across from him as he says, "Now you've walked my streets, so maybe that'll give you an idea of how careful we are. We're over 10 years into this thing. Now I get 2 strangers brought in. Blake here gets shot by a kid. And I just want to make sure that I'm not letting 2 psychos into my community." Haley says, "Where is he? Where is my son?" Rob says, Relax. He's out back, eating ice cream." Billy walks out to them both and he says, "Hey, Mom, you gotta try this. It's just like Kingstonville all over again." Haley smiles and hugs him and says, "Are you okay?" Billy says, "Yes, Mom, I'm fine." Rob looks at them both and says, "See, we're good people. Hell, your son shoots one of ours. In return, I give him a bowl of ice cream. Sounds pretty good to me. Now, earmuffs, kiddo. Let's cut the bullshit. We got a lot to get to. You need to know exactly who we are and what we're about. Now I'll get you both some dinner for your troubles." Haley and Billy sit across from him as Haley says, "Are you the ones with the signs?" "I've avoided those things because they seem too good to be true." Rob says, "Well, good on you. And for your information, you are absolutely correct. See, what I have here is different. However, there's a lot more that meets the eye around here. Just like all those years ago, the news accused me of murdering one of my fans. I'm sure you heard the story. There's always another side to a story, Haley, just remember that. So since our paths have collided now, Haley, well, I think it's time I told you the truth about Ziltrumite." Six years later, we see a campfire as we see a shadow of a woman standing over it. As she walks up and throws another log in, as we see, it's Haley. We see someone sticks an axe into a log, as we see a 11-year-old Billy. As we see him say, "Only one squirrel in the area. It's getting harder to find these things, Mom." "Mom, you haven't eaten in 2 days." Haley says, "It's okay. You need to eat. I'll starve before you go hungry, baby. Just remember that." Billy says, "No, Mom, I'm gonna split this with you, okay?" Haley says, Okay. Don't you worry, baby. We'll find something soon enough. We'll go into town tomorrow, okay? See if there's anything there. Billy says, all right, I'm gonna do my rounds before we turn in for the night. As we can see, they're struggling badly. We see Billy walking around the camp. As we see, he walks past a sign that says, Ziltrumite is lying to you. Turn back and save yourself. Billy sees this, but then he hears a deadhead approaching him as he pulls out a big gun and shoots it. As he then stands over it, seeing there's some spray paint on its face. As he looks very curious about it, as he keeps moving. We see him walk onto a big shipyard as we hear the sound of an owl. As we see the water with a few dead bodies floating inside of it. As he just looks out to the sky, as he then starts walking back, as he sees there's a man standing in the shadows holding a sledgehammer, as he just is standing there from far, watching Billy. As Billy looks scared, as he just stares the man down. As he looks nervous, and he pulls out his gun, and he holds it tight in his hand, and then he pops the man once as he goes down. Billy is breathing heavily in a panic. But then, as we then see the man getting up again, and then he starts walking towards Billy very slowly, as he looks scared and runs as fast as he can. Billy is running through the woods, as we then see there's another person chasing after him, and as they pull out a glowing knife as they go after Billy. We see Billy runs back to the camp as Haley sees Billy running back as she pulls out her gun and says, "Are you okay?" Billy is out of breath and says, "I saw someone, a man. He was just watching me." Haley says, "Yeah, I heard the shot. Did he try to kill you?" Billy says, "I shot him before he could." Haley quickly puts out the fire as they grab their gear and run. As we see them running through the woods as they are trying to avoid these men. We see them running through the woods as they have to cross through this small group of cars. As Billy says, "We need to get going. There's a few more coming." Haley sees an old strip mall up the hill as they then hear these people whistling. She says, "There, go." They run up the hill and lock themselves into one of the stores. As we see, they're locked inside of a candy shop. As we then see them hiding out back behind the counter. As they're holding their guns behind the counter, shaking in fear. As we see the doorknob starting to turn. As Haley and Billy look ready, but scared. And then the door gets knocked down as we see the person pulls out two knives. As they slowly walk in, we see two people standing there with their weapons out. As Haley and Billy walk out and show themselves. As they pull a gun on them, as we hear one laughing, as they both take off their masks, and Tom says, "Gotcha." Haley and Billy look shocked as Haley hugs them both and says, "Tom, Rivers? How did you—" Tom says, "Oh, it's a long story." "Wait, is this—" Haley smiles and says, "That's Billy." Tom looks at him and says, "Well, hey, Billy boy, how you been? Remember your old pal Tom?" Billy says, "Is that really you, Uncle Tom?" Tom says, "Sure is, kiddo. Come on, you didn't really think I died back at that bar, did you? Hey, Rivers, you got any joints? The little lad here deserves one after the little scare stunt we did on him there." Rivers says, "No!" Tom says, "What? He's old enough now. Come on, he's got to be like, what, 10 now? I mean, what kid didn't start smoking when they were at least 10? Haley just gives him a look. Tom reads the room and says, "All right, maybe another time." Haley says, "Well, I see you haven't changed a bit." Haley says, "So, who are these people you're running with, Tom?" Out of nowhere, Haley takes a hit to the face with a baseball bat as she goes down. She looks disoriented as this guy pulls a gun on her as Tom runs up to him and says, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? She's family." The man says, "Yeah? And tell that to the little bastard that shot me in the shoulder. We're gonna take them back to Rob where he will get the answers that we need." Tom says, "Please, man, please." Rivers says, "Honey, just let it go." Tom looks pissed as Haley is slowly getting up, as we see these men ripping Billy away from her as she yells for him, as they then knock her out. Later on, we see the gash in Haley's head as the soldiers are looking at her through the glass as she says, "You have my people. I saw them." "What are you people?" The person then hears Rob says, "Bring our new arrivals in. I'm at the diner." This kid is already getting into the damn ice cream. He's gonna have a fucking sugar rush by this point. As the person says, "The leader will speak to you first. If you win him over, you'll get to see your son again." Haley looks desperate and says, "Okay, so who leads you people?" We see Tom and Rivers sitting in a waiting room as a door opens, as Arlo comes out and Tom asks, "How is she?" Arlo says, "She's being questioned, for now. Rob's sitting down with her and Billy right now." Tom says, "Well, I want to see her right away once he's done with them." Arlo then kind of pats him on the shoulder and says, "Look, man, I don't like this any more than you do, alright? I don't like kids and questioning. But the kid did shoot Blake. I mean, was he always like this?" Tom says, "Well, maybe Blake did something to set him off. I don't fucking know." Arlo says, "Like what exactly?" Tom says, "Man, you know how he is. Blake's a fucking pussy. Christ, he was the lord of the crybabies when we were captured inside of that prison camp. I mean, hell, bro would always hide behind us when we would take all the beatings for him." You would see some scarrings on Tom's arm, as you would notice that he's been through some bad shit. Arlo says, "Look, man, we're not in camps anymore, alright? This ain't Ziltrumite anymore. In here, the reason we're even here to begin with is so we can do things differently from them. So everyone will get a fair chance." As Rob says, "So since our paths have collided, Haley, well, I think it's time I told you the truth about Ziltrumite." Haley says, "Alright, so what is there to say? I mean, it's obviously a lie." Rob says, "Oh, it's a lie, alright. Everyone you see here, everyone in this place, they all saw the signs at one point or another. But they weren't lucky as you and your son, unfortunately. And they definitely weren't blessed with the minds of yours." Haley says, "My head is pounding." "Yep, I'm assuming this is exactly what blessed feels like?" Rob says, "Look, this place holds people, alright? They bring you in, and it stays that way until the big boss man that has a stick up his ass, and he finally makes the call. And if you're strong enough, they'll let you join." Haley says, "Well, what happens if they don't join? What happens if the boss doesn't see potential in them?" Rob says, "That's the problem. Not an option. I mean, it's an option, if death is your choice. You either join them and be useful to them, or they look at you as useless and dead to them. And in quite a literal manner, I'm afraid. The conductor has his way.
And all these people that you see here managed to break out at one point or another. And we're angry. I'm angry. And some of my folks, well, they're fighting to get the ones that they love out of that shithole, once and for all. Haley says, that man named Tom, that woman named Rivers, they were part of my group back many, many years ago. I didn't even know they were still alive until today. Did you save them? Rob says, we saved each other, actually. I have a lot of respect for Tom. Hell, you would know, he's like a big old teddy bear, but he acts like a fucking Viking when you need him to. Billy says, so when do we get to see him? Rob says, well, just enjoy your meal, as long as we promise that maybe the way that we met each other is behind us, alright? Then we could just let it be pure safety measures. They nod and he says, then I think we'll be alright here. Billy says, well, what about the man I shot earlier? Rob says, oh, what, Blake? Nah, let him have his hissy fit all he wants. I'll handle that. They get served a plate of food each, as Haley says, this isn't poison, is it? Rob says, what? This convicted bastard right here? Nah. He takes a bit of it and he says, see? Damn, homemade mashed potatoes. Those are good. As Haley then realizes she can trust him. We see Haley and Billy walking out of the diner as we see the guards are just letting them roam free now. As we see Billy says, I shot him, Mom. I had to. He looked like he was going to attack me. Haley says, I don't care. I'm just glad you're safe. We'll deal with that Blake guy on our own terms. Billy says, I haven't said this in years, but Mom, I'm full. Stuffed, actually. Haley says, yeah, I almost forgot what a hot meal was like. Never thought we'd have one again. We see two guards walking up to them as they take off their masks, as we see Tom and Rivers. As Tom says, you guys make out okay? Billy says, yeah, the rock star fed us. Is he really a rock star? Tom says, was. He had great music beforehand. Unfortunately, the media tried to take him down, tried to ruin his reputation, but as you can see, the news was a bunch of bullshit. He's one cool-ass dude. Honey, would you take Billy to him and Haley's new place? I want to talk to Haley alone for a minute. Rivers says, sure, come on, kiddo. Whoa, you've doubled in size. As we see them walk off. We see Haley and Tom walking by the river, as Haley says, it just doesn't feel real. I thought you died fighting off James. I tried to get to you, but the place was nothing but ashes. I didn't think you survived. But here you are. Her smile starts to leave her as she says, I wish I could have said the same about the others. Tom says, what happened to you out there? Haley says, we beat the apostles. Dave made real sure of that. He shot Bishop dead. Tom says, good. If I was there, I would have done the same damn thing. Haley says, honestly, Dave did the right thing looking back. Ryan was evil. She looks sad and says, it was hard out there, not gonna lie. We went to this ranch for hospitality afterwards, and then we had to rely on the hospitality from this crazy man with a chainsaw. God knows what else he would have done. Tom says, oh God, that guy. Yeah, I ran into him too. He wasn't so welcoming to me. So what are you getting at here with all this? Haley says, the people on this ranch were evil. And when the tables turned, I got separated from everyone. And I'm not sure if they survived, Tom. I'm sorry. I tried. I really fucking tried. I tried to be that leader that Lincoln wanted me to be. But I failed. She turns her back on him looking guilty, as Tom sits next to her by the dock and says, oh, Haley. I can promise you didn't lose anyone. Haley says, how do you know that? I mean, I can't. Tom stops her and says, because I saw them. Haley looks shocked and Tom says, Dave, Miles, Ashley, hell, even Kezia. They're all there. Haley looks surprised and happy and says, what? Are they okay? Tom says, there's a catch to it, okay? You see, they're all living in the big city. Haley says, wait, what? Then what are you talking about? Tom says, It means they're captured by Ziltrumite. They got him. Every last fucking one of them. Yeah, looks like my family weren't the only fuckers that had the brilliant idea after Kingstonville to follow those signs that were clearly a trap. Haley says, I knew there was something off about that place. I knew it. I felt it in my gut. That's why I told Billy not to go there. Hell, that's why I didn't bring Billy there all those years. You don't think I wasn't tempted? Hell, trust me when I say I was tempted. It got hard out there, but I never once attempted to get there, because I knew there was something off with that place. Hell, there were times we'd go almost a week without eating, and I never once bought into those signs. You know how hard it was to turn that down? But I did. Tom says, and everyone's still in there. Last I saw, they're not doing so hot, Haley. They're being kept in labor camps, working hard, trying to hold out as best as they can. Haley then says, so why aren't you and Rivers in there with them? Tom says, we broke out. We had some help on the inside. And Rob, Arlo, Blake, everyone you see here broke out of that prison together. They're all ready to fight back for what they did to them and the people that they took from them. And I'm here to get my daughter and your people out. This commander, he's a real smug motherfucker. Played me like a fucking fiddle. And I've gone against him face to face. He's got every single one of them under his boot. Now, Haley, I'm gonna be straight with you here. This commander ain't like the Bishop, or the Vipers, or even the old school Dave with his wannabe samurais. It's much, much worse. Haley says, that's impossible. I mean, the Queen had a city. If we could take care of that, we could definitely do that type of thing again. Tom stops her and says, yeah, and they had one city. These people have places outside of the city. Little outposts here and there, a moving train. There's even word of some kind of expansion outside the fucking province. And it looks like they're pursuing that pretty goddamn quickly. There's no way of beating them. I've been trying to find a way for us to beat them. But I still got nothing. Haley says, there's no way. Tom says, yeah. I was at one of their trading posts. That's where they took my family. I met a real nice guy there named the fucking conductor. I like to call that one the prick with the funny accent. Haley says, what did you do to him? Tom says, oh, I gave him a well-deserved punch-a-roll. Went down fast like a fucking bag of potatoes. He smiled at me fast, and then he ruined my life. I still remember these words he said to me after it all happened. He looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, welcome to Ziltrumite. And that's how it all started. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. To get the people that we care about back. Our people, Haley. Haley just gets up in a rush and Tom says, what are you doing? Haley is walking down the dock as she says, we took on a queen, took down a bishop. Now let's go get us a fucking commander. I miss this. We then see Blake walking up to a house. As he is still holding his shoulder in pain, he knocks at the door. As a man opens it, and it's an older man, and he says, Jesus, son, who'd you piss off this time? Blake says, hey, Dad, can I come in? Blake sits down and sits on the couch. As we see his dad going into the kitchen getting him some painkillers, and he says, so you gonna tell me what you did out there to get that hole in your shoulder? Or will this be another lie again? Blake says, yeah, the shooter who did this is just roaming around on our fucking walls and eating our ice cream. The dad says, oh, well, that's unfortunate. But Rob must have seen something useful in this, sir or madam. Blake says, yeah, try a 10-year-old little brat. His dad looks really disappointed and says, whoa, are you intimidated by a little kid now, Blake? Blake says, no, I don't appreciate when someone comes up to me and tries to shoot me, okay? The dad says, well, while you sit here and rest, I'm gonna go talk to Rob about tomorrow. As the dad leaves, as we then see Blake cuddled up in this warm blankie, as he then turns on the TV and watches SpongeBob. We see Haley walk out of her new place, as we see her walking down the town of Halliburton, as we see Rob walks up to her and says, "Good day, Mrs. West." "Oh, is it Mrs. West or Haley? What do your folks usually call you?" "Trust me, I don't like calling people by a name they don't want to be called by. My manager used to do that. Always used to fuck up my name. Guy was a bitch." Haley says, Haley is fine, yeah. "So what's on the agenda today?" "You gave us a nice place to stay, fresh clothes, and all I've done is thanked you." "Wait a minute. I don't even think I've done that yet." "Thank you, Rob." Rob says, "My pleasure. However, today is a big day, but I'm not going to ask you to get involved if it's something you don't want to get involved in." Haley says, "I'd like to help. Any way I can." Rob says, "Great. Well, we'll go over that later. For now, I was just about to get some lunch." Arlo walks up to them and says, "Lunch? Are we going to Tommy Boy's Pizzeria and Joy?" Haley says, "Wait, what did you guys come up with this time?" Rob says, "Well, how about we show you?" We see a pizzeria, as we see the name at the front of the store. As we see, Haley reads the name of it, and it says, "Tom's Pizzeria and Joy, pizzeria by day, bar by night." Haley looks at Rob and says, "Of course there's a twist to it. You know this is the third bar he's opened now, right?" Rob says, "Oh, is it now? Told me it was his fourth." I guess he just tried to impress us, I guess. "In that case, does he really know 5 different languages?" Haley says, "No." Rob says, "I figured." They walk in, as Tom says, "All right there, shut up, Felipe, I'm getting to it, bud." As we see Tom turns around, as we see he's wearing a Kiss and Cook cooking apron, as he says, "I'll get your order in a second." He runs out back to his manager and says, "Okay, I need a pizza with..." He just looks down at him, and he says, What's the problem there, bud?" His manager is laughing at him and says, "What's with that apron there, son? You trying to get them to like you or something?" Tom says, Yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, look, the boss man is on his way here for his pizza, all right? If I don't have his bullshit Hawaiian pizza ready within the next 10 minutes, I have a feeling that my regrets and promises are going to be shoved straight up my asshole with a fucking twist to it, okay? Now get to making." Tom walks out and says under his breath, "Who the fuck even wants pineapple on pizza, goddammit? Fucking shit, fucking cocksucking nasty-ass pizza." Tom then puts a fake smile on and says, "All right, holster your tits there, Robbie Gin John Johnson. It's coming." Tom hears the bell going off and says, "Ah, fuck, I forgot to get the fucking bastard. Shit, get out of my way." We see Haley, Tom, and Rob all sitting at the table eating their pizzas, as Rob asks the most obvious question to him and says, "Yo, Tom, this pizza slaps, man, but aren't you supposed to be working right now?" Tom says, What? Don't worry about it. Plus, it's Stony Stone Tuesday, alright? They'll be fine." Rob says, "Great, that's just the mindset we need for this mission. Alright, here's the plan, guys. This train comes by around the same time, every week at approximately 4:30 on the dot. It's driven by a guy named the fucking Conductor, alright? He's one of Ziltrumite's highest ranked members. We take him out. We take the train out. It's gonna hit the commander really goddamn hard." As we see Tom eating, as he stops and says, "Man, he's not the only one that's hard right now. God damn, this is good. Man, my pizza boner is a rock. This is definitely sticking on the menu." Haley says, "Yeah, make sure to never let me let you teach Billy that one." Rob says, "Yeah, listen, stay with me here. If they don't have a train, they no longer have any kind of an advantage, alright? We make our chances a lot higher than it is now. So, who's in, who's out, who's helping me?" Haley says, "Well, sounds like fun to me." Tom says, "I'll go, and I'm sure Rivoli River Pond will go too, so if she's in, I'm in. We go in, get us one big old train. Besides, I get to kill that fucker I punched in the face a few years back. And when it's over, we come back. We party, and we celebrate just like we did in the good old days of Manland. Oh, and Rob, regrets and promises, drunk edition, tonight, be there." Rob says, "Sounds like a plan." We see Haley and Rob walking the streets as she says, "So are we really going to take this train on with only a few of us?" Rob says, "We'll take Arlo, Blake, maybe Felix, maybe Carly, some of the others with us. That'll be at least 8 of us. We'll handle." Haley says, "I just met you yesterday. Do you always put on this much of trust into someone you barely know?" Rob says, "Well, to put it briefly, Tom took a lot of injuries and fights defending me in there when we were prisoners, back in the prison camp days. And I always asked him what made him so selfless. He told me his leader Haley taught him how to be that way. Other people first, then yourself. And I thought, who in the world is still alive this far into this thing that would have that kind of mindset? And that's your buddy Tom, and I'm glad to consider him a friend of mine. And you taught him that. Besides, there is another reason I'm asking you to come on this trip, and I'll just say very briefly, I've heard some interesting stories about some shit that you've done over the years, Haley. I heard one time you blew up a group of over 100 plus people just to save who was yours." Haley just looks at him and Rob says, "Yeah, we need you." Rob says, "Come with me. I'll get you suited up." We see Haley loading a pistol as she gets a new biker outfit. As we see Rob, Haley, Tom, Rivers, Arlo, Blake, and a few others all getting suited up, as Arlo says. So we know precisely where this thing is going to be at. Rob says, "I got it covered. I wrote the location down on a map. As long as we're there before 4:30, this will work, alright?" They all walk out together, as Haley hangs back and says, "They look up to you. I see it on their faces." Rob says, "Yep, you know." He walks up and grabs a set of keys and says, "I did have something for you to use on this little trip." We see them in the garage as he then rips the cover off of something. As we see, it's Lincoln's bike. Rob says, "Tom said he was out there on a supply run a while back. Found this thing abandoned out in the fucking mud. It was in bad shape, but we brought it back. Apparently I got skills in the biker department. Hell, maybe I was a biker in another life, who fucking knows. Apparently this belonged to your husband though. Lincoln West?" Haley looks emotional as he says, "He was a great man, Lincoln West." Haley says, "Wait, you knew him?" Rob says, "Briefly. He worked as a prison guard when I was locked up before the world fell. I was in the same prison as Dave Miller." Haley says, "Wow, it's a small world, huh? You know, for the record, I do believe you were falsely accused. Me and my husband heard that story on the news about the fan that tried to kill you. I mean, it was obviously self-defense." Rob says, "Thanks, Mrs. West. I wish more people thought so, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore now. So, you ready to rob a train?" Haley says, "They have my people. The only thing I hope for is that they realize that they let in a pack of wolves into their house. And they just don't know it yet." We see the Ziltrumite train going by. As we see the back of the train, we see a man on the floor spitting up blood. As we see his tongue has been cut out. As we see him trying to speak. As we see the conductor standing over him with a big wrench in his hand as he says to this man, "I tried with you, George, but you broke the rules, so you folks had to die. I did warn you before, though. There will be no hunger strikes." The man is trying to talk, but he can't get the words out, as the conductor says, "What's the trouble, hoss? Cat catch your tongue?" He looks down. "Oh, well, my, it's right here. Well, I see I've left you speechless, but in this place, the punishment fits the crime you commit." He starts walking away as the 2 soldiers grab him, as he says, "Take him. Put him at the rest." An example is going to be made, gentlemen. We see this train stopping at this internment camp as we see the prisoner gets thrown out of the train and onto the ground. The conductor steps out and says, "Welcome home. You're never leaving this one, I'm afraid." We see the soldiers taking the 7 other prisoners out of the train as well, as they bring them all out as the soldiers are standing behind all of them. The conductor walks out and says, "Line up, prisoners. That's it. Nice little puddle for you to sit in right there. Right there. Now, my name is Arthur Fresnick, but you can call me the conductor. You are here because you have shown that you do not work well with others. I really don't like people who don't work well with others. That's part of the place you joined. That's why we thrive by working together. But the only other mercy I can offer you is die together. But it's all right. You will all die here together." We see the prisoners look terrified as we see a girl looking at her boyfriend as she says, "Please, I love you, babe. I love you." The man says, "I love you too. You are my one and only. Nothing is gonna change." The conductor shoots the woman in the head as she falls, as they all scream in fear, as the boyfriend says, You fucking monkey." He shoots him too and says, My, will you shut up with that power love bullshit? That and a settlement of soldiers dressed in black does not mix in this world. Well, we had to go out of order, but it's alright. This batch will do just fine. They all look scared as the conductor says, "Ready, soldiers? Weapons up?" They load their guns to the back of the prisoners' heads. But then the conductor says, "Fire!" They shoot and kill them all as we see a small smile on the conductor's face. But then we see from a distance up a big hill far out, Tom and Arlo are watching down at this with binoculars as Tom says, "There's the fucking bastard right there." Arlo says, "How many did they kill?" Tom says, "I'm seeing 7, although there's at least 30 plus soldiers down there." Arlo says, "All right, we call it in. We'll bring what we can." Tom radios in, "Rob, you copy?" Rob says, "I copy you, Tom. What's the situation looking like?" Tom says, "Not good. Southern Smiley Tits over there just gunned down a group of prisoners." Wait. Rob says, "What is it?" Tom says, "There's another vehicle approaching." As we see the conductor standing over the dead prisoners, as he sees the vehicle approaching and says, "Captain is here, folks. Make sure to make them welcome." The vehicle stops as we see some soldiers get out, and they open the back door for this person as we see them step out of the vehicle. We see Tom and Arlo from a distance as Arlo says, "Can you see who it is?" Tom says, "I don't know, I can't tell." As we then see through his binoculars, the captain is Kezia. As we see her get out, as she walks up to the scene dressed in black armor and says, "I cut my lunch short for this, Arthur. I knew I'd find you like this." The conductor says, "Well, aren't you just a ray of sunshine? Captain, we have a handful of people here who just don't like the rules I'm putting into place, and well, that makes me very angry." Kezia says, "Yeah, that's why he sent me out here instead of coming out here himself. Frankly, I didn't want to do this." The conductor says, "What? You here to babysit me or something?" Kezia says, "I'm here for the rest of the week. Commander's orders." The conductor says, "Oh, and I'm willing to bet you just love taking orders from him." As Tom sees her and says, "That fucking bitch," Arlo says, "Is that the one that..." Tom says, "Yeah, that's the one." Arlo says, "All right, look, just relax, okay? I know they have your daughter, all right, but we got to be smart about this, okay? Tom," Kezia says, Come on, gentlemen. Take these corpses out to the chipper. Arlo says, Tom, just listen to me, all right? Tom turns around and says, Captain Taylor is why my daughter is gone. He picks up the walkie and says, Rob, we're heading back. We'll hit him when the train takes off. They turn off the radio, but then 2 soldiers sneak up behind them and tase them both as Tom and Arlo go down, as we see Tom's vision in a muffled voice as we see the soldier says, let's get them back. The conductor will want to see them. We see Rob, Haley, Rivers, Blake, and some of his men are on their motorcycles as they all pull over, as Rob says. All right, we walk from here. They start walking as Rob says. So, Haley, what was this Kingstonville place like? Haley says, it was one of a kind. It belonged to a man named Paul. Then he died in a war for it. And then my husband had the idea to hire people for a council, and we all ran it together. Rob says, from what Tom told me, it was almost like an old world. Haley says, it was. It was pretty amazing. But it came at a price, unfortunately. I lost Lincoln to that place. Rob says, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it. Haley says, no, it's okay. It happened a long time ago. River says, guys. They then see Arlo and Tom's motorcycles have been left on the side of the hill as she radios. Tom? Arlo, you there? We're where you told us to meet you. Where the hell are you? Tommy Boo, do you read? Tommy Boo, do you read? Tom! As they look, panicked. We then zoom into the labor camp as we see the cameras go all the way to the basement. As we see Tom and Arlo are handcuffed together to a pipe. As we see Ziltrumite soldiers across the room watching them, as Tom says, No, not again. This can't be happening again. Arlo says, whatever they do to us, we can't tell them the plan. This needs to happen with or without us. Tom says, yeah, it will. As we see Captain Kezia Taylor and the conductor walking into the basement together, as Tom just looks at Kezia with pure anger, as the conductor grabs a power drill and walks up to them both and says, well, long time no see. And the commander didn't believe you were still alive out there. But I told him. I knew my instincts were right. And here you are. Here you are in the flesh. So you worthless little pieces of shit. What brings you back here so soon after your departure? Tom laughs and says, well, it looks like I'm not done with you yet. The conductor says, well, I would say the same, lumberjack. But now that we have you here, I've been so damn curious. Where's he been hiding? Tom says, who? The conductor says, well, the rock star himself, Rob Johnson. You all got out together, right? Well, I'm just itching to find out how you pulled something like that off. Tom says, if you think that I'm gonna... He stabs Tom in the leg as he screams out as Arlo says, hey, don't! The conductor says, oh, I think you're gonna tell me. Very valuable information you're hanging on to there. And I unfortunately am not authorized to let you go until I have that information that I want. Or that the commander wants. And besides, we're just catching up. I wouldn't want to end things too soon. Now I'm going to ask again. Where's the rebellion been hiding? Where's the home base of the people that have been having the spray-painted signs on my roads? I'll have you know the shit drives me crazy. Tom looks angry and says, you really think that this is going to get the information you want out of me? The conductor says, it's mighty fine with me. I don't mind the company. Besides, one of the best things about the world being the way it is, Tom, we got nothing but the time in the world. Tom spits in his face as he laughs and says, well, it's just a damn stalling tactic on your behalf. Because sooner or later, you won't be able to resist. Meanwhile, outside the labor camp, we see Haley, Rob, Rivers, Blake, and some of the other fighters hiding behind one of the old cars outside the camp as we hear the conductor narrating. You've been running from us for years, trying your best to prove you found a better way. Well, what is that better way? But the one thing that you may not have asked yourself is, do you really have something better than we have offered you? Rob whispers, all right, Rivers, Blake, I want you at gate D. And Mrs. West, you're going to go with me at gate C. Haley says, how do you know about all this? Rob says, because my people and your old pal Tom, we were held here a long time ago. So I kind of know this place in and out by now. Haley loads her gun and Rob says, you ready? Haley laughs and says, it's just another day for me, Johnson. They sneak their way in as we hear the conductor saying, I mean, really, what did you think was going to happen? You just come in here on your own and suddenly kill me? And somehow it took you all that time to come here and do that? I'm disappointed, Tom. Really. Tom says, you can stab me as much as you fucking want. You can hurt me as much as you fucking please. But you will never know where we are. So you're gonna run your little bitch ass to that fucking asshole and tell him that your mission was unsuccessful. Ain't that all you're fucking good for? The conductor smiles and he pulls out his walkie and says, don't say I didn't try, Tom. This is conductor reporting from the town. Will someone connect me to the commander? I need to speak with him real quick. The person says, I'll get him for you, conductor. The conductor says, thank you. Well, the clock's ticking now. You either tell me where Rob's people are hiding out at, or in a few minutes here, I'll request that the commander kills Julia, your daughter, right now. Then I'll proceed to send you her body parts as a little souvenir and a reminder of what kind of father would put his daughter's life in jeopardy to save his own ass. But I guess that's really important to you now, is it? Tom looks angry and says, you're bluffing. The conductor says, all the history we have, Tommy. You really want to try me? Because there is nothing in this for me to lose. And we'll find your community at one point or another, so how about try not to get someone else killed? Tom looks angry and says, please, don't fucking do this. The conductor says, clock is ticking, Tom. Not my problem anymore. You probably only have a few minutes before I give the order. What's it gonna be, Tom? Come on, what's it gonna be? Tom looks terrified as he sees Kezia just standing in the background with the other soldiers, and he says, you think this is funny? After everything we did for each other, and you're just gonna stand there and act like we didn't fucking mean something to you? The conductor says, I don't think she's the one you should be upset with, Tom, if you do as I ask. I give you 10 seconds, and then I'm making the choice for you. Where is the rebellion? Where is the rebellion, Tom? Tom looks very worried, and the conductor says, enough. 10, 9, 8. Tom says, please don't. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Tom says, it's Halliburton. We're set up in the town of Halliburton, okay? The conductor drops his walkie and says, really? Just a few of you cleared out that entire town overran by deadheads? Nah, I don't believe it. Tom says, we took it. I'm not lying. We met people along the way that helped us. There's over 200 of us now. The conductor says, well, that's my favorite number. He looks behind him and says, Captain Taylor, you mind radioing the commander telling him where the place is? And when you're done that, make sure to tell them that Julia remains alive. For now. Tom says, please, I told you everything you needed to know. Please, just let me see my daughter. The conductor says, not how it works, Pops. You see, now that you told me where Rob is hiding his little piglets at, you are no use to me. It's been fun riding with you, Tom. He then pulls out his knife, but then we see Haley and Rob stealth killing some soldiers from the back As they come up behind a few of them and stab them in the back of the head, we see Blake and Rivers doing the same on the other side of the camp. As a guard then notices them from a tower, Rivers pulls out a grenade and says, "Well, so much for that don't make noise rule." She throws the grenade as it blows up the tower with the man on it. As the conductor hears this and says, "Go, warriors! I have a feeling his friends aren't too far." Haley and Rob pull out their guns as the soldiers see them as they fire back. Haley and Rob back up against the wall as Haley then fires back at the soldiers and shoots the ones firing at them. Rivers and Blake are running through the camp trying to find Tom and Arlo as Rivers looks worried, but then they hear people in a cage screaming, "Help! Help! Help over here! Help!" Rivers then shoots the guards and Blake says, "What are you doing?" Rivers says, "Building our army, fucko. Now you gonna stand there or you gonna help me?" Blake takes the keys off of the guard as they go up to the cage and open it to see there's men, women, families, and even little children just locked up in here. As we then see on the other side of the room, dead bodies of men, women, families, and even children. As one of the prisoners say, Are you here to kill us?" Rivers takes her hood off and says, "Oh, we're here to kill people, all right." They look scared as she says, "And to save others." She puts her hand out and says, "You can trust us. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Trust me, okay? I once was you. And I know how scary this is, but we're going to take you all to somewhere you can feel safe, okay? Now, is there anyone here that can help us fight?" We see a few people step forward as she says, "Thank you. The others stay here, and we protect the rest. We're all getting out of here." We see the conductor says, "Captain Taylor, take Arlo here and get him ready for my train in case of an emergency." Kezia says, "Got it, sir." She takes Arlo away as Tom says, "This is all gonna fall sooner or later." The conductor hits him and says, "Not while I have you two. Come on. I'm gonna put an end to this real quick." He grabs Tom by the collar as he says, "Move." We see Haley and Rob firing at a few other soldiers as they kill them all, as they then take their guns for more firepower. Rob says, "Damn, one day with you, Mrs. West, and you've killed more people than most of my men in a year. We're glad to have you." As they keep moving, we see the prisoners taking the soldiers' guns as they team up with Rivers and Blake, as we see more soldiers on their way, as they all fire and kill most of them. But unfortunately, 2 prisoners get shot and killed in the process. As we see Haley and Rob run up to them as Rivers says, "We let the families out. You find Tom and Arlo?" Haley says, "No, we didn't, but we need to." We then hear, "Looking for this?" We see the conductor with a gun pointed to Tom's head as he forces him to his knees and says, "Guns down. Right there. Right there in front of you. Get on your fucking knees, or I will kill this big ginger right here. Right now." River says, "Tom?" Tom says, "It's okay, River Lake. It's okay." The conductor says, "Rob Johnson, it's been a while. You look good. So this is where you been, huh? Hiding out in Halliburton? Spreading propaganda?" Rob says, "Who the fuck told you that?" Tom says, "I'm sorry, Rob. He was gonna..." The conductor says, "Don't say a fucking word. It doesn't really matter anyway. You all die here." He looks at Haley and says, "Whoa, I never seen this one before. You seen her before, gentlemen? What's your name, darling?" Haley says, "Haley West. Now I suggest you remove the gun away from his head and tell me where you've been keeping my people all these years." The conductor says, "Haley West? Holy hell! It's a small world after all. She does exist, gentlemen." I mean, I thought your people were just talking smack, but... Oh, I've heard a lot about you. Wow, all these years? I thought your people were just talking about a dead woman. Life's funny that way. Well, Mrs. West, I will have you know that your people have been well cared for. Well, at least the ones that are left." Haley looks angry and he says, Now, I'm sorry to meet face to face under these pretenses, but I have all the information I need. So I have no use for any of you now. Gentlemen, we're gonna kill everybody here today as a message to the others on rebelling against this wonderful community called Ziltrumite. Then, I'm gonna take Mrs. West here to the big city to meet the commander himself. I'm sure he's gonna want to meet her. Haley says, "Hey, listen, I'll go with you, alright? If you just let my people live, okay?" The conductor says, "So the rumors are true." She tries to act like she's the boss even though she isn't. Her people aren't lying after all. He loads the gun at Tom's head and says, "Any last words for your people? You may want to say them now." Rivers looks worried as the conductor says, "Make it fast." This is the out of nowhere. Some of the Ziltrumite soldiers are getting shot. Rivers throws a knife at the conductor as he then ducks, and he then starts getting shot at as he then runs for cover. Both groups start firing at each other. As we see, there is one Ziltrumite soldier at the top of the hill that is firing down at the rest, trying to kill the conductor. Haley sees this and wonders who they are. But then, as we then see the conductor runs with some of his men, and he says, "Ready to train. We're getting the fuck out of here, gentlemen. I do not want to get shot today." His men start getting shot and killed. As we see this soldier on the top of the hill seems very persistent to kill him. As we then see, Kezia grabs the conductor and says, "We gotta get the hell out of here, boss. We can't hold him off for long." She fires a few shots and the conductor says, "I knew I liked you, Taylor." They run to the train as 3 other soldiers then cover them. As they all get on the train, Haley and Rob see them getting away as the train takes off. As Haley says, "We can't let them get back to the city. If they get back," Rob says, We're not. Haley, Tom, Arlo, Blake, Rivers, you're all with me. Get on the motorcycles and let's take us a fucking train." We see the conductor inside of the train, as we see one of the men driving it as he says, "The sons of bitches took our last damn post! We need to get back, inform the commander on this. We got valuable information on these people today." Kezia says, "They took out our entire camp, sir. You really think we're getting out of this without some kind of punishment?" The conductor says, "I'll get out of it, sunshine. I always do." Kezia says, "Don't call me that." The conductor says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you black cloud of death? How's that sound?" Kezia says, "Just shut up." She looks out the window. She then says, "Arthur?" We see Haley, Rob, Tom, Rivers, Arlo, and Blake on their motorcycles. As they drive next to the train, as they pull out their guns, as they then start firing at the train, as Haley says, "Pull this train over!" Rob says, "Stay on them. We'll hit them from the front. We'll take out the driver, and you do the rest. Come on." Rob and Rivers and Blake drive up to the front as they then fire at the driver. Haley then sees 2 soldiers as they go up to the top of the train, and as they open fire on Haley on the bike. Haley keeps it steady as she speeds up and dodges the bullets being fired at her. She shoots and kills one, but as the other guy is still shooting at her, as we then see Rob, Rivers, and Blake go up to the front, as they fire at the front window, as Rivers focuses on the driver in her sights. As she fires, she kills the driver. The conductor then hears this from the inside as he and Kezia start getting shot at as they get down. The conductor picks up his walkie in a panic and says, "Vic, what the hell's going on up there?" He doesn't hear a response as we then see the last 4 soldiers run up to him as one says, "We're coming in hot. Brace for impact." Haley sees what's happening as she tells everyone to back up. We then see the tracks leading to a road as Kezia says, "We're going down!" As we then see the train breaks off as it crashes on the road. Arlo says, "Holy shit." Rob gets off his bike as he reloads his gun and says, "Check for survivors. Shoot to kill." We see the conductor covered in blood as we see he's in rough shape. As we see Kezia slowly getting up. As we see a few soldiers got killed in the crash. As they get out, as the conductor says, "You get me out of here, Captain Taylor. If you show up without me, it ain't gonna end pretty for you." Kezia says, "I know, damn it." The conductor, Kezia, and a few soldiers run out of the train as we see them come out with their guns. As Haley says, "We have survivors!" We see the groups then firing back and forth as our group takes cover behind the train as Haley reloads. But then Haley sees Kezia in the group and looks very confused. As we see the conductor is out of ammunition. As Kezia then looks to her left, and a soldier gets shot right in the head next to her, and the conductor says, "We gotta go!" He and Kezia and a few others run off into the woods for safety. Tom and Arlo shoot a few more soldiers as he then sees the conductor and Kezia and some of the others getting away. As he then grabs a gun and Tom starts running after them. Rob gets in his way as Tom says, "Get out of my way, Rob." Rob says, "No, you're gonna get yourself killed." Tom says, "He knows where we are." Rob says, "I know he does." Tom says, No, if he gets back, he's gonna tell them where we are, and he's gonna use our people against us. He's gonna try to kill my fucking daughter." River says, "Tom, stop." He's right. You go after them, and you're only gonna get yourself killed. Tom says, "I can't lose her. I can't fucking lose her. Please, just let me help her. Please, let me fucking help her, please." Rob hugs him and says, I know. You won't lose her. You won't lose her, brother. Listen to me. I will do everything in my power to make sure that the rules that those people make do not live on. You're not gonna lose her, Tom. You're not. So stop. Tom breaks down in Rob's arms as Rob says, "I got you, brother." Tom says, They can't win again. They can't fucking win again." Rob says, "They won't. I'll make sure of it." Haley says, "Kezia, she's with them now? Can someone tell me what the fuck is going on?" Rob says, "There's a lot that's happened, Haley. I understand you have questions, and you want answers, but now, I'm gonna go in that train and look for some fucking answers." They all enter the train together, as Rob says, "Look out for broken windows and glass. Watch your step in here." They search through the train, as we see Haley and Arlo, as they discover the restaurant that they had inside. As we see the lights flickering, as we see some dead bodies, and Haley says, "There was people still in here. We did this," Arlo says, "or we saved them from a life that they didn't want. And if they did, they were living in a fantasy." Haley says, I had that once. I lost it. Rob says, "Guys, come take a look at this." Haley and Arlo walk up to the others as Rob is holding a journal that has a bunch of information written on it. And as we see, written on the front page of the book, Ziltrumite train 1 of 4. As Haley and the others see this, as they look panicked, Tom just walks out of the train in frustration as Haley says, No, this isn't possible. There's more of these?" Rob says, "We only hit 1. Arlo says, "Fuck!" Rob looks at them and says, "We didn't do shit here. We started something. Nothing more." They all look worried as Rob says, "Let's get back home. We're gonna need to get ready. We gotta be ready. We gotta be ready for Arthur to retaliate." Tom is standing outside of the train as he looks worried, and Rob says, "All right, look, I know this is bad, all right, but we still got to win here today, all right?" Tom says, How the fuck did we fucking win?" Rob says, "We got some of them, all right? Listen, we can't just stroll in there and blow them all up with explosives at once, all right? That's not how this shit works, trust me. I've thought of doing that, but then we'd all be fucking dead, Tom." Rivers says, "Honey, we'll go back and we'll do this right, all right? We'll get her back, I promise." Tom says, "All right. We better get at it then." He goes back to his bike as everyone gets on their motorcycles, as they all ride off, as we can see the sun going down.
Your heart's on the loose. You rode them sevens with nothing to lose. This ain't no place for the weary kind. You called all your shots, shooting a ball at the corner truck.
We see Haley, Rob, and the others getting back. As the night sets in, we see the night going by. As we see Tom and Rivers looking discouraged. As we see them drinking at the pizzeria. As Tom says, "After all this time she was still alive out there. I couldn't do anything to." Rivers says, "Hey, this isn't on you, all right? You couldn't have." Tom says, "I told the conductor where we are." Rivers says, "What?" Tom says, He had me and Arlo hostage, and he was gonna kill me. And I could tell, and I honestly didn't care. But then he told me he had access to her, that he was gonna instruct that the soldiers back in that city would execute my fucking daughter, my Julia. And I knew he wasn't bluffing. But I had to do one thing in order to make sure that my daughter's life, our daughter's life, wasn't taken away from us." Rivers says, "You told him where we are." Tom says, "I had to. I tried to go after him. I couldn't lose another child again. I tried to go after him, but you all stopped me. And you shouldn't have, because now he knows exactly where we are. And it's all my fucking fault." Rivers puts her hands on his face and says, "Stop it. You did what any parent would do for their child. And if they want to show up here, then let them. Let them come. Better yet, we'll take one of theirs as leverage to get her back, so if anything, that would be a win. These people will not win forever. We just need to hang on a little bit longer." Tom says, "That's the thing, River Lake. Life has always just been a ticking bomb. And we're all just standing around waiting for it to blow. And when that sun comes up tomorrow, I will be grateful that we even get to live another day." Arlo peeks his head in and says, "Hey, you two okay?" Rivers says, "Yeah, fine. What's up?" Arlo says, Rob and the others are all gathered up at the dock. Little group meeting we're having. If you want to come. Rivers looks at Tom and says, "We're right behind you." Tom looks completely lost as he takes a swig of liquor and says, "All right, let's go." We see Billy cleaning his gun at his and Haley's new house, as we then hear a knock at the door. We see a woman walk in as she says, "Hi, I'm sorry. I didn't know you guys got this house." Billy says, "It's okay. Who are you?" The woman says, I'm Marissa, Blake's girlfriend." "You're the new kid, right, Billy?" Billy says, "Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry about what I did to you." Marissa says, "Oh no, it's okay. I get it. You were just defending yourself, as they told me." "Well, I'm very happy you're here. It's been a while since this place has had some new faces." Billy says, "So what happened to the people that lived here before us?" Marissa sits next to him as she says, "They died. Not so long ago." Billy says, "Who killed them?" Marissa says, "Some very bad people. People who don't work so well with others." Billy says, "Wow, doesn't sound like such a safe place to me. I mean, if people just get killed like nothing in here, then how can it be a safe haven?" Marissa says, "Kid, you're not safe out there. You're not safe anywhere." Billy looks confused and says, "Because I'm in here?" Marissa says, "I didn't say that. You can try to trick yourself that you are, but eventually denial will catch up to you, kid. And you won't have to be safe anymore because safe won't matter." Billy looks a bit on edge as she says, "Anyway, I hope you and I can be great friends. I just live a few doors down. Call me if you need anything, and I mean anything." She just smiles and walks out the door as Billy puts his gun back together, looking suspicious. We see Haley walks past her outside as Haley walks inside and says, "Well, I see you're already liked around here." Billy says, "Yeah, I guess I just have that affection on people. How'd it go, Mom?" Haley says, "Maybe I'm not gonna lie to you. I think you're old enough to know the truth. It went rather terrible. You remember all your old friends from Kingstonville?" Billy says, "Are they alive, Mom?" Haley says, "Every one of them by the sounds of it. And we're gonna have to fight to get them back. Because family is all that matters. At least, that's what your dad said, so we're gonna stay here. I don't know if it's only temporary or if it's gonna be a permanent situation, but we're staying." Billy says, "It's okay. I like it here. Feels like a real home for once." Haley says, "All right. Well, I wanted to tell you first because we're going to a group meeting. And I think you're old enough to finally come. Know everything we're going to be doing. I think you're ready, son." Billy says, "Yeah. Okay. Let's do it." We see everyone in Halliburton gathering around in the middle of the town in front of a big fire. As we see Tom and Rivers walking up to the group, Haley and Billy are walking up to the crowd, and Arlo, Blake, and Marissa and the rest of the rebellion group are walking up as well. As Rob looks at them and says, "We've had our first encounter against Arthur and some of the Ziltrumite followers. Now I know you have questions, and I'm here to give them to you. You may have heard talk about this, and it's true. They know where we are, and that is not anyone's fault, and I don't want anybody to say it is. I do not want you to look at this as a defeat. The very opposite, in fact. This is step one of several steps to lead us to the conclusion that we are expecting to get out of this, because we will get out of this. Because we will get the justice that we have worked so hard to get. This here is Haley West, former leader of Tom's group, and I would argue still the leader of Tom's people. Please make her and her son Billy welcome." They applaud her as he says, "Haley's people, They're still in there. Just like ours. At least a lot of them are. Her family. And a lot of your families lost so many years to this cult of a civilization that makes you believe that their way is the only way, and that if you don't bend the knee, if you don't serve to this fucked up crusade, then you are useless to the world itself. When in fact, that is not true. If you defect, that means only one thing, that you have a good heart and you have perseverance to do the right thing. And for those people that choose that place instead of their freedom, do not blame them. No, because some of those people just want a safe place regardless of what the hell it may look like. And that's okay, because we will show them the right way. We see Arthur, Kezia, and some of the remaining soldiers running through the woods as we hear Rob saying, "We are not the ones that are running. They may think we are. But do you see me running? Haley, you running?" Haley says, "No." Rob says, "What about any of you? Are you running?" Nobody says a word, and Rob says, "Exactly. Because they are. Me and my people saw them today, and when it came down to the very end, they ran. And that's all they do. Run from their problems, run from reality, and run from the fucking truth. And you don't get the truth with them. They will burn your name just like they burned themselves the second that they created that place. So if you will stand with me in preparation of what this cult-like mindset military is going to be serving us next, I thank you all for standing for what you believe in. And together, we will take care of these runners and killers and not only show the others what they are, show themselves what they are. Now who's with me?" He puts his gun up in the air and he says, "For the rebellion!" As we hear the crowd say, "For the rebellion!" Rob turns to Haley as we see they give each other a nod of respect. Later that night, we see it's the middle of the night, as we see Rob is just sitting in the garage, drinking. He then puts his jacket on and walks out the door. We see him walking up to Blake's house as he knocks on the door. And Blake opens it and says, what the hell do you want, boss?" Rob says, "I just figured I'd let you know I'm going out for about an hour or so with the patrols." Blake grabs his gun and closes the door and says, "What is it?" Rob says, "I'm making sure they're nowhere around this place. I'm also keeping an eye out on my patrols if they are. I'll be back within the hour." Blake says, "Wait, I'm coming with you." Rob says, "All right then. See, someone's got their big boy pants on today. Was bound to happen sooner or later. Let's go." We see Haley is fast asleep. As we see, she's finally able to sleep after all this time. We then see her door starts to open a bit. As we see, a person is in their house dressed in black. As they're just staring Haley down. They then close the door. As Haley then moves, as we then see, she's just changing positions. As this person almost woke her up. As they then slowly move to the other room. But then, they see an old bag in the hall. As this person ruffles through it. They search through their things to find an old photo of Lincoln, Haley, and Billy in front of their house at Kingstonville, looking happy. As this person sees this and puts the picture back in the bag, they then decide to take their weapon and walk out of the house. Outside the walls of Halliburton, we see Rob, Blake, and two other men sitting in this car as one of the men says, "Rob, we've been out here for over an hour, man. The sun's about to come up soon, for Christ's sake. I don't think there's anything." We then hear a voice on the walkie-talkie saying, We Need assistance. I repeat, we need assistance. This is Captain Taylor of Ziltrumite City. There's been an incident. We need your help. Please respond. Over. Rob looks pissed and picks up the walkie. We see Kezia and Arthur and the rest of the soldiers look spent and out of shape. As we hear, "You lost, Taylor?" Kezia looks pissed and says, "Rob? You too much of a chicken shit to come out here and have a conversation face to face?" Rob says, "Nice try, lady, but I think I'm awfully comfortable right here. No ambush today." Kezia says, "What do you people want?" Arthur says, "Oh, is that Rob? How's he doing? Get to it!" Rob says, "What I want is Arthur's head for starters. You see, unlike others, I see you people for what you really are. You're not a savage, cold-blooded killer, Kezia. I saw it before. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you're not playing it very well. And hearing what I'm hearing, Arthur remains breathing. So let me ask you both something that you may need to hear. Everything you've done, from the second that you turned that place into what it is wrong." Arthur says, "Well, you're obviously talking about the wrong people because Ziltrumite is not my creation." Rob says, "I gathered that, but still, you're stuck, trying to live a life that's been dead for years. And sooner or later, you're going to be dead with it. And I can't wait for the day that you realize that you were wrong, and you come crying to me, asking for my forgiveness because you know you're wrong. And I will look at you dead in the face and teach you a very well-earned lesson." Kezia says, "Oh, you don't want this fight, Johnson. The commander is already aware of the rebellion, and he will find you. And after the information that your friend gave us today, it's probably going to be sooner than later." Rob says, "Great. You go ahead then. Tell your boss everything you've learned. And when you've done that, tell him to give me a call. Because unlike you that's running, I'm the one sitting comfy and cozy waiting for you to show up at my doorstep so I can kill every fucking last one of you." Kezia says, "You think that's a threat?" Rob says, "No, but this one is. My regrets is ever showing up at your house of wolves. And my promises is you better run. Because our song is about to be sang, Kezia Taylor."
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Feel the earth move and then hear my heart burst again. For this is the end.
And as the soldier stands there watching the fight go down, as we then see Haley and her people, the person then takes their helmet off. As we see, it's Miles. As he sees Haley and the others from far, as he then says, "A war for freedom, Mrs. West? Shit. It'll be my pleasure."
We will stand tall, face it all together at skyfall. Let the sky fall. We'll stand tall at
We see the Ziltrumite city light up at night, as we see a man dressed in all black, walking downtown. He stops on this little overpass to look out at the water. We then reveal it's Dave. He looks rather depressed and defeated as we see him walk across the overpass. We then see him walking through this parking lot as he goes up to an old truck, and he gets in. He looks at himself through the rearview mirror, and he just sits there. He then pulls out an old note from his pocket, and it says, "Happy Father's Day. Love, Rose." He starts crying all alone in his truck as he says,
I tried to make it back. I tried to make it right, Catherine. I tried. I thought this would have been safe. I thought this would have been safe. If I would have known if I knew what this place was, I shouldn't have done it. I know I fucking shouldn't have. I fucking told myself I shouldn't have. I mean, I was so close. I was so fucking close to saying the hell with it. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I'm so sorry.
He then pulls himself together, and he pulls out of the parking lot. We see him driving his truck down the road, as we see soldiers guarding every single street. As we see this place is heavily guarded. Dave then pulls over on the side of the road and he parks the truck. He steps out, as we see him walking up to a bar. He walks inside of the bar. As we see, he goes over and sits down. As he's waiting to get served, he then hears the bartender says,
Well, if I didn't know any better, I'd say your first name is Depression and your last name is Midlife Crisis.
As we see, it's Mr. Sunderland from Kingstonville. He looks at Dave and he says,
Holy shit, Mr. Miller. I don't mean to be that guy or anything, but you look like a fucking right mess, my friend.
Dave says,
Yeah, I've had better days.
Mr. Sunderland says,
So what are you having, your usual?
Dave says,
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Sunderland.
he gets his drink ready as he says,
Dave, my man, you're breaking my fucking heart looking like this. And I've had less sympathy for bloody dogs, mate. I don't mean to pry, but what's going on with you?
Dave says,
It's my daughter's birthday. I'm sorry. I know I've done the same thing for years, just every time. Every time I read this letter, it just reminds me of what I did. The choices I made.
Mr. Sunderland says,
Oh, I understand, man. It's hard losing a daughter. Especially to a place like this.
Dave says,
All the people I've killed? Hell, all the people I've gotten killed? Maybe this is for me. Maybe I deserve this.
Mr. Sunderland says,
Oh, come on. Now, why would you deserve this?
Dave says,
Think about it, man. I brought everyone here, fully aware that this could have been a trap. And when we got here, and when they...
He tears up, and Mr. Sunderland puts his hand on his shoulder and says,
Hey, you are not to blame for what happened. You are not to blame for what that man did to you.
Dave says,
Enzo ruined my fucking life. And he has gotten away with it for so many goddamn years. I've been thinking.
Mr. Sunderland says,
Dave, I can't lie. You're kinda scaring me right now, brother. What did you really come here to talk about?
Dave says, Did you hear about what went down today? Did you even hear what was going on?
Mr. Sunderland says,
Yeah, it was some intense shit. Oh, please don't tell me you're thinking of...
Dave says, killing every one of those fucking sons of bitches, you're damn right it's on my bucket list. But not yet. I still have things to do here. But what I am saying is that I'm getting ready. I've been studying the ins and outs of this place for years, and I think I've finally gotten a grasp of what they're doing around here. And I just want to make sure that you have my back when it's time for me to fill you in on what we're going to be doing. Mr. Sunderland says,
Dave, my friend, I trust barely any prick in this place. But you, my friend, are not on that list. So if you're asking me to help you, I will help you.
Dave downs the drink and thanks him, and he starts walking out, and Mr. Sunderland says,
Is this about what happened?
Dave says, yeah, it is. 'Cause Enzo's why my people are fucking gone. And it's time to expose this place for what it really is. I'm gonna talk to some people. I'm gonna get ready. And I hope for your sake that you are as well when the time comes. It's time for Enzo to feel the wrath of what he did to my daughter.
He walks out of the bar. As Mr. Sunderland looks nervous, Mr. Sunderland says,
God forbid that Ziltrumite has to face the wrath of the broken man.
As Dave puts the hat back on his head as he walks out into the city of Ziltrumite, ready to take it down.